Hello, people of the internet. My name is Narutar, or a TJ, or whatever you want to call me, whatever you feel comfortable with. It has admittedly been a little while since I uploaded a motherfucker. Patch just came out a few hours ago. It's dark in my room because I have blackout curtains, and I enjoy having the light off and only the little light behind the camera because I am a very brood and depressing person. But yeah, we're just gonna jump into it. First off, we have Orisa, and there's no developer comment up here, so I feel like this was okay. We're off to a great start. So her fortify health bonus was reduced from 125 to 75. I mean, obviously any type of HP getting reduced on a tank is big, especially on a tank like Orisa, you would think anyway. The reason why I don't think this matters in the grand scheme of things, like obviously you're losing 50 HP and that's a big fucking deal, but it's also on an ability that makes her damn near invincible for 4 seconds, alongside the little javelin spin that she has that doesn't allow her to take any type of projectile or even hit scan damage from the front. And she also has a javelin spin, which is, you know, team peel and self peel in case someone's actually, you know, someone has the fucking audacity to just walk up to her and do damage. So I think Orisa will be fine. I think she's still going to be a top tier character to pick. This feels so... I feel we'll circle back to this, but either way, we have good old Roadhog coming up here. This one does have a developer comment, so that's cool. And so these changes aim to reduce the frustration of dying in one shot immediately after being hooked and pulled by Roadhog. I would really hope that's what this change is for. Chain hook is still a powerful ability to forcibly reposition enemy players, so it will still often lead to eliminations. Again, I would hope so. That's the only thing Roadhog is good for, essentially, is its chain hook. Its effectiveness will now be more dependent on specific hero matchups and how the hook target is able to respond. So take a little skim at this. We have the actual impact damage being reduced from 30 to 5, which is, again, it's not as big of an HP thing, obviously, but damage specifically on Roadhog, that's all the fucking hero is. Roadhog is damage. Roadhog doesn't really have any other type of utility. He doesn't provide a shield. He doesn't provide a barrier, excuse me. He doesn't provide anything aside from being just a fat fucking meat shield and damage and self-heal. But losing 25 damage just off rip is kind of fucking nuts on your only ability that actually allows you to be a fucking hero. So in addition to that, the enemy final position distance from Roadhog after being pulled is increased from 3 to 4 meters. So the distance being pulled from Roadhog has also been a relatively big thing. Up until now, you could still one-shot 250 HP characters by walking toward them as you're in your hook animation, obviously shooting them and then meleeing right afterward. So if you're ever wondering, wait, how the fuck did that Roadhog, or if you were ever wondering, obviously the patch is live, so it's not going to be effective now. The scrap gun damage per pellet being reduced from 6.6 to just 6 is interesting. The recovery time being reduced from 0.85 to 0.8 seconds. The reload time being reduced from 2 to 1.75 seconds, and his max ammo being increased from 5 to 6. So for starters, can we take a second to acknowledge that in the first Overwatch, like on release, Roadhog only had 4 shots in his gun, and now he has 6. We have come a long way. Like, we have come a long way thinking about it. This fucker only had 4 shots in his gun. His primary fire did a lot more damage. His secondary fire, I'm pretty sure, did more damage. His ult did more. This is the shallow, fucking washed up version of Roadhog that we obviously could have used a couple years ago, but any change for Roadhog is very much appreciated, in my opinion. Looking at all these changes, again, going from 0.85 to 0.8 seconds, it's almost fucking nothing, essentially, but changing the recovery time and also changing the reload time makes him feel more like a brawler rather than just, okay, I'm one-shotting you, then doing fuck all for the next, 6-7 seconds or so. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he won't be able to one-shot you anymore because this is getting gutted. And again, 0.6 to 6 doesn't look like that much, but any type of small damage reduction on a shotgun is a fucking lot. So his one-shot potential is being gutted, but overall DPS getting increased, so it's a net win for everyone that isn't Roadhog. Honestly, no, if you're playing a support and you dare to breathe the same fucking air in the same galaxy as him, you're not gonna get, you know, instantly one shot by him. Or if you're me playing on Blizzard World, you're not going to be hooked from fucking Narnia and then one shot, because I'm going to put the clip up in a second, but it was absolute fucking bullshit in my opinion. But moving on. For DPS, we have good old legs. We have Sojourn. So the developer comment says that the energy gain adjustment will help smooth out Sojourn's average railgun charge time because it won't benefit as much from critical damage or damage boost abilities. Hitting armor targets or other sources of damage reduction will result in quicker energy gains than before. Previously, damage boost and critical damage had an amplified effect for Sojourn since it reduced the time to build energy and lowered the threshold at which her railgun secondary fire became lethal. The reduction to primary fire damage will further slow that down as well. Energy gain is no longer based on damage done by primary fire. Each primary fire hit against an enemy player now grants 5 energy. Interesting. And the primary fire damage per projectile reduced from 10 to 9. So this is another like small type of numbers thing, this part on the bottom anyway, being reduced from 10 to 9. You wouldn't think that a 1 damage nerf would be that big, but on projectile characters, specifically Sojourn, it would be, because you think back to the times that you've been playing Sojourn and someone lives with like maybe 5 HP or so, like just a fucking smidgen of HP. They're gonna live a lot more consistently because of that 1 damage. And it's, again, different for projectiles than it is for hit scan, because it's a lot easier to confirm kills when you're playing as an actual hit scan character, because it's a hit scan weapon. It's instantaneous. You don't have to wait for the travel time on the projectile. This top part here, energy is no longer gained. Essentially, 5 flat is different from 5 minus whatever mitigation is done by a character or by their abilities or whatnot. A good example would be if we scroll back up to Orisa and her Fortify. Before, you're not getting a 5 flat charge. You're getting like, what was it, like 2 or 3 per hit. Now you're getting 5 flat whenever she's fortified or whenever she has armor, shit like that. The same with a character like Diva or Reinhardt. Even a character like Bastion that has some type of damage mitigation from his Ironclad passive, I believe, but whenever he's in fucking turret form. Unless they're stacking armor characters, like if they have a Reinhardt and they have a Torb and they have a Bastion and they have a Brig, then I, again, can't foresee the counterintuitiveness of the 5 energy going wrong. But again, that's a very, very specific scenario. I don't see that happening. Any type of damage nerf is well welcomed for Sojourn. So developer comments: despite Kiriko's healing projectiles being slow moving in single target, her average healing output per match is higher than we'd like. I don't think that's the problem with Kiriko. We're increasing the recovery time before she can start firing her healing Afuda. Increasing recovery times opens the opportunity to weave in secondary fire kunai more freely. This change doesn't fucking matter. You are losing 0.15 seconds off of your overall healing channel, right? Before you can actually, get back into flowing it. You would have to cast it upwards of 6 times, because 0.15, you multiply that by 6, you get 0.9, which isn't 1 second, and I know someone's gonna bitch about it. So yeah, again, upward of 6 times, mind you. That's assuming you're only heal botting and you're not doing anything else at all during that time. If you weren't throwing your kunai then, you're not throwing it now, because that's so negligible nerf. It's what we'll call a placebo nerf, right? It's there, but you're not going to feel it at all because it basically doesn't exist. If you're not throwing your kunai before, you're not going to start doing it now. That's Kiriko players, let's say masters and higher, right? You're already channeling it, throwing 1 or 2 kunai out. Maybe again 2 if you're stretching it. So you're throwing your kunai out, healing, throwing your kunai out, healing it, throwing your... If you're in lower elo, you're not going to notice this. You're not going to notice 0.15 fucking seconds off your channel. Like, you can get really technical with the math and like, oh, well, if you cast it 20 times and you're actually like losing out on like 200, and like, yeah, that's great, but if you were throwing your kunai and you crit it, you already make up for that in damage. So what's the end game here? this nerf doesn't matter and it doesn't solve the problems with Kiriko, in my opinion. Again, her problem being that she literally has a get out of jail guardian angel card free on a low cooldown and that can go through walls, mind you, right? And an AoE cleanse also on a relatively low cooldown. Someone's gonna say, oh well, it's on well, I think it's on a higher cooldown, and it's like, it really isn't when you compare it to other support abilities. It's on a shorter cooldown than Rez. It's on a shorter cooldown than Baptiste's little left shift that I can't remember the name of. It's on a shorter cooldown than Lamp. I think it's on par with Lucio's Amp It Up. Zenyatta doesn't have any fucking cooldowns, so we're not talking about him. It's the same cooldown as Ana's nade. I think that at the end of the day, that's what Suzu's going to be balanced around, being able to counter Ana's nade. Her ult is still one of the best initiation tools in the fucking game. I don't think 0.15 seconds off her healing channel recovery is going to make a difference. That's about it for all of this, aside from this ball. Again, how funny is this that in a patch where he is still complete dog shit, he kind of gets nerfed? I mean, again, this was a bug, so that's fair, but I don't know, I'll be honest, it was a patch, I'll say that much. It was something. I don't think that it's a little bit disappointing of the patch. I feel like this was thrown in at the absolute last fucking second. Overall, I'm a fan of the Roadhog changes. I'm still a little bit iffy on Sojourn changes. Again, overall, it's a buff in ways that don't really matter, and an overall net nerf with only gaining 5 energy and the primary fire being reduced from 10 to 9. This doesn't. Biggest winner of this patch is probably going to be Mercy for being untouched. I think she definitely should have gotten nerfed this patch. But yeah, that's going to be it for me for now. Thank you for commenting and subscribing as always, and I will see you in the next video of whatever I choose to make.